Good everyone, welcome to this video, and today we have a review on the D2. This is a brand new French tank and is patch 1.99, and it's actually a lot of fun until Sweden looks at you. This will give me a chance to give a bit of ribbing toward, well, I say ribbing, more like give a solid opinion about what I think about Sweden at this tier. So, for those of you that don't know, Sweden has actually come out of closed beta. So, in other words, everyone can play it. As you can imagine, that made Spade in this tank quite harsh. With the amount of Swedish APDS flying around, the one characteristic of this tank is made completely irrelevant. This gives me a chance to basically say, guys, remove the APDS, please. This tank has one party trick, and it cannot use that when some Swedish guy or Swedish tanker can just go, oh no, my first shell ricocheted because I don't know how to aim. Load the APDS. Just to point out, I was angled like this in one of my battles. And if we just go to Sweden, which just proves how broken his fucking shell is. Does it care? Does it fuck? It can just go pretty much for anywhere it likes. And I have had deaths hit me roughly about here, and it just wipes out the entire crew. The D2's only redeeming feature, other than the B1 Biz style turret, is its armor. And it's made completely irrelevant. I'm not being funny, right, Gaijin, this is a medium tank. If its one party trick is armor, I expect to rely on it, at least to some extent. Not get lol penned by some skillless Swede. Now, I know some people are going to say, Joe, didn't you use APDS? Yes, I did, but I felt bad for using it. That round is simply ridiculous, to put it lightly. So, guys, just remove it. Anyway, less about that Swedish bullshit, and let's move on to the tank. So, if you don't know your history about this tank, I will sum it up briefly. One of the most unreliable tanks from what I've been able to find. That is mainly due to its design. This tank weighs nearly 20 tons. Now, to some of you, that may seem pretty light, and that relatively is compared to some of its contemporaries. But the thing is that this tank is powered by just a 150 horsepower Renault engine. That's not a lot of horse for a 20-ton tank. That's actually quite underpowered. And in real life, this tank was very famous for breaking down. They had a lot of engine and transmission problems that really limited the tank's potential. The earlier guns were SA-34s with this turret, and they were also SA-35s, which is the one we have. It's a pretty decent gun, I'll be brutally honest. And the one party piece of this tank is its armor plating. As I've already mentioned, it's 40mm on the front, 40mm on the driver's port, and 40mm on the side. The turret's pretty strong at 45 to 56. It's actually got pretty good armor. If I just turn off external armor, you can see what I mean. If you angle this thing, it is one tough sucker. I mean, there is a weak spot, which I've just briefly gone over there, but I'll explain more about that in a bit. The rear armor is 40, the lower part is 20, but it's angled enough to compensate for the lack of thickness. The top of the engine deck is 20, but here's the problem. J8As can punch right through that from above. They can practically punch through at any angle they choose, especially if they use armored targets. And that was my first death in this tank. I got 4 kills, a couple of assists, and thought, okay, I'll crawl along at 14 miles an hour, which is its top speed, and get into a position. No, a J8A just strafed my engine deck, and that was the end of me, because, well, no FPE. Yeah, you're gonna want to watch the planes, and you're gonna see that in this battle. Watching the planes is very important. Let's just say that. But other than Swedish APDS, I actually had a lot of fun spading this tank. It is a very good tank, and obviously because people don't know the weaknesses of it yet, other than Sweden, it is quite a tough tank. But obviously, if you sit front on, there is a lot of this BR that is going to penetrate you. This is why I recommend angling it like this. At least you can negate some of the effect. Well, at least you can negate some of the guns. I mean, the 20mm HVAC will not punch through this unless you go turret ring at point blank range. And even then, the SA-35 is more than capable of dealing with it. And if it's something lighter, you do have a high rate of fire coax machine gun. So there's that. In terms of penetration, you get about 62 at 10 meters, and up to around 1,000 meters, you get 36. That's actually pretty decent for this BR. I'm not going to lie. So, in terms of penetration, you're going to be fine. In terms of armor, you're going to be fine unless Sweden is looking at you. And just overall, I think this tank is very good. You've just got to watch the mobility, though. You're going to see just how slow this thing is. With just 150 horsepower, it's not quick. And 14 miles an hour forwards, but a little party trick as well. 7.5 in reverse enables you to side scrape pretty effectively. You're going to see a bit of side scraping in this battle. In terms of how I did in the vehicle, I didn't do too badly, but as I said, if you take out the 2 deaths of Sweden APDS, that's 2 deaths, 2 air kills, which I shot them in the face with a 47, and 14 ground kills. As I said, I really do think Sweden needs to be, like, the APDS needs to be removed. Now that the Swedish spam is real right now, and they're teamed up with Germans, you can see the problem. And Germany's got some weapons that can even punch through an angled D2, so that gives you an idea. But anyway, let's jump into the battle and let's have a look at the D2. Now, I will say one thing, this tank made me get a few grey hairs, which I don't think that is safe for my age. That's how slow this thing is. Like, a Churchill, for its size, is pretty nippy, but because this thing's so small and, like, boxy, you'd expect it to be pretty quick, but it's not. Apparently, a lot of German tankers captured these, and they came to the same conclusion as the French. These were completely unreliable vehicles, at least as far as I've been able to find. And as you can tell, in this battle, well, in fact, I don't know why it's not showing up with FPE, because I had FPE in this battle. It's probably a bug. So, here we go. The tank is at full... This is going to be full speed very shortly. And there you go, we're at top speed. Yeah, she's not a speed demon, that's for definite. She is not a speed demon, but she's very well armoured for its... She's very well armoured for what it is, I will give it that. But to save you the grey hairs, because, well, there are a few that watch my... As far as I can tell on my analytics, there's quite a few older gentlemen. I do not want to give you any more grey hairs, so... Because that's what you can do with the YouTube studio. You can actually look and see roughly what or who watches your content. And as far as I can tell, the majority are either 18 to 24 or 50 to 65. That's what it's telling me anyway. There are a couple of 30-year-olds watching, but even so, I mean, it's always nice to look at the YouTube analytics every so often. It's not often I do. So again, this thing is at full whack. We're trying to get this thing down the road, and I had to avoid that pole just so I would not go any slower. Because yeah, that's how much of a grey hair inducer this thing is. It honestly is. Just, oh, it's so slow. Why, friends? Give it a better engine and a better gearbox. So obviously I spotted the Swede right there, and that was horrible shooting on my part. And he actually doesn't have APDS. That's why he bounced. And as you noticed, I was angled at about 30 to 45 degrees. That proves the versatility of this vehicle. It can bounce a lot of stuff when you're not firing Sweden LOL pen APDS. And the reverse rate is coming in handy here because I'm side scraping, technically speaking. But it's a very good tank. I mean, the armor is very good for the most part. As long as you angle it, you can't sit front on. You have to angle. If you don't angle, you're a dead man. Or woman, if you drive this tank. There's not many female players more than there, as far as I know. There are a few, but I barely see them. It's mostly male players I have interactions with, and they are mostly knobheads, to say the least. But hey, if we're going to be playing War Thunder, we're not going to be playing this for nice players, are we? So unfortunately, because I backed off to side scrape, I did not get into the cap, and yeah, this thing has that reputation. You're not going to be getting to cap circles very quickly, especially this BR, because, well, this thing's slow as balls. I mean, it's not T95 slow, but it's still slow. So yeah, this is pretty much what it's like to play the tank. I mean, I'm just going to jump us ahead. And at this point, here comes the problem. J6Bs and J8As, also known as a trainer aircraft and a copy of a British Gladiator, just with better guns. Well, arguably better guns. So I decided, instead of trying to race along to the B point and A point, I'll just stick near the C point, and this turned out to be a very valid decision. So I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, because I actually spotted this Gandalf OG guy, because he was on the minimap earlier, and I'm willing to lay a bet he was loading the APDS, because, well, that's just what Swedish players are like now. Every single time someone bounces off with a regular armor piercing round, they just go, okay, load the APDS, and bish bash bosh. That's the end of you. Unfortunately, both Shadow Demon and Gandalf are not going to appreciate that. And here comes the engine deck weak spot. And as you can tell, he can just punch right through. He takes out the gearbox, because obviously it's only 5mm thick. And now I'm disabled, I can't move. And the turret traverse on this thing isn't great, to say the least. I think at maximum it's only about 10 degrees a second. Not very fast, and there's a hit to the engine block again. I've now completely lost all mobility. Even if we fix the gearbox, it doesn't matter, because, well, we've got the engine to fix now. But you'll notice this a lot. Players coming back to immediately try and revenge kill you with the Swedish 8mm. And at this point, I'm obviously wanting to seek cover, because, well, it's quite a big tank for this BR compared to some of the other tanks that you're going to be fighting. But this is where the reverse rate comes in handy. I mean, it's not the fastest, but it's one of the faster tanks at this BR. And it's just nice to have as a backup. And there we go, engine disabled again. That was actually Gandalf doing that. So that just proves just how little care you need to play Sweden. You just need to shoot or spray and pray, pretty much. And again, engine's disabled, I cannot move, and yeah. I did actually hit him with that. I scored a crit, and I don't think he was too happy about that, because he does come back later. I get the assist on him later too. And I decided to give him a taste of machine gun, but he soon learns to not mess with that. But obviously, just because I'm shooting at planes doesn't mean I can't pay attention to shooting tanks. In terms of gun depression and elevation, this tank comes from 18 to both, so it's not too bad. It isn't too bad at all, because 18 degrees of gun depression is probably one of the best at this BR. So I've got to give the French that. They did focus on their gun depression quite well. But I knew he was coming back around to look for me, so I decided to back up and get into position. Again, I'm just going to jump us ahead, because, well, yeah, it took a while to get us on the move. So at this point, the C point's been capped, and those of you with eagle eyes, because I accidentally skipped it, you may have seen an AS-42. Now I knew what this little shit was planning, so I thought if I check the left hand side, I can at least swing the tank around in time and try and get him this way. Now I could have possibly died here. It's very likely, because well, H-Rap can actually punch through the front. But again, always angle. Obviously I didn't have enough time to angle because of the lack of horsepower. And as it turned out, there was 2 of them on the cap, unbeknownst to me. And luckily, again, this Krieg guy, Duffman 12, appeared to not have APDS. Obviously I'm backing up here and I spot the tank. Start turning, and well, I aim just above the transmission so that I knew I could kill the crew. And there we go, kill number 3. This is pretty much what I had to deal with, and it was very interesting to say the least. But at that point I take a hit, which the track actually ate that one. And it's actually Gandalf, and again, he doesn't have APDS. And if there's one thing a D2 is doing, it's beating a Swedish tank without APDS. Kill number 4. And this is where I get my only cap I got in this tank. That proves how desperate this thing is for caps. Like, I had a good few games in it, and I just couldn't get to caps fast enough because of how slow it was. But I have to admit, this is a very good, like, it's a very fun tank to play. It's just, whenever Sweden lol pens you, it's not exactly fun, because it's your only party piece. Other than the reverse rate, because I mean, you don't tend to see reverse rates that are this good on a tank in this tier. So at this point, I decided to back up and go and sit behind my favourite container. This is one of my spots, by the way, so Chris and Moza17, please do take note. Well, sorry, Asman was saying, because that's the Discord name. Yeah, make sure to take note, because, well, this is a nice little spot of mine. You can, especially if you're in a quite small tank like this for its size, like height-wise, you can sit here no problem at all. I'm just going to jump us ahead, just to the final part of the action. So obviously I'm looking around, and there's Krieg, obviously looking for, Duffman I should say, looking for me, I'm fairly certain. And I just thought, yeah whatever, I'll fire a shot at him. Unbeknownst to me, there's actually an L640 driving down the road. Obviously I'm looking around, trying to identify aircraft, and this guy takes a shot at an angle D2. And here comes the armor plating coming in handy again. Now, unfortunately, I hit the steps onto the crane, so I can't actually hit him there, but I lighted him up with a machine gun just to distract him. The 20 mils just bounced right off. And that is that. Ace in the day in the D2. So like I say, other than the Swedish APDS spam, this tank is very good. I really enjoyed the tank, and I really do think people should give this thing a go. It's only 4,000 RP, and I really do think this tank is worthy of your time. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on D2, and I will see you all on the next one.